Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy, and in today's video, we are going to be analyzing Pro Football Focus's Steve Palazzolo's NFL mock draft for the 2021 NFL mock draft. Now, I find it important to look at other people's brains during this. You don't want to go ahead and go into the draft just using your brain and thinking, you know what, everything I think is going to be completely correct. Because if I'm being honest with you, everyone is completely wrong about the NFL draft pretty much every single time. Even Mel Kiper is going to get things wrong. Even these guys that get paid $7 zillion are going to get things wrong. I'm going to get things wrong. They're going to get things wrong as well. Just like the Chicago Bears got everything wrong when they drafted Mitchell Trubisky over Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. Things like that are going to happen in the NFL draft before our eyes. The Jaguars could somehow not select Trevor Lawrence at the first pick and pick someone else because, again, you just never necessarily know what is going to happen and what is going through the mind of these people. But I do like to go ahead and take my brain, go into Steve's brain, right, and search through it to figure out what I can get from this and maybe change my mind on some of these players and where they're going to land in the 2021 NFL draft. If you guys want more NFL draft content, this is the place to be. I drop so much content surrounding the draft. I drop so much content surrounding fantasy football, the NFL, all that. So if you're an NFL fan, you want to be subscribed to Notorious Fantasy, down below, make sure you hit that subscribe button. 2021 NFL mock draft from Steve Palazzolo, which is going to be linked down below in the description on Pro Football Focus. So the first pick of the draft, no-brainer, touchdown Jesus, quarterback Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. This is a no-brainer, and there's really no need to go super in-depth on this pick. Obviously, you can read what it says on the screen. 90 plus PFF grades. This guy's fucking amazing. He does this, he does that. We all know that. He is literally slated to be the best prospect coming out of college since Andrew Luck. And hopefully, Mr. Trevor Lawrence doesn't retire like Andrew Luck did. But at the end of the day, Trevor Lawrence looks like he is going to be the #1 pick. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about this. I don't really think we need to go super in-depth about it because it just seems obvious at this point. At number 2, the team that should have had the #1 overall pick, but instead chose winning with Adam Gase instead of just losing a game, selects the New York Football Jets select quarterback Zach Wilson out of BYU. Personally, I think this is a very good selection for the New York Football Jets. As someone who has watched tape on both Zach Wilson and Justin Fields, and when comparing them, I really see Justin Fields having the kind of lower echelon of skills. I don't know why I just sounded like that. Skills! It just seemed like. It seemed like Zach Wilson was the more complete quarterback. Now, this is going to be a pick that is heavily debated because now that the New York Football Jets have brought in a new coach who's defensive-minded, do they want to go ahead and keep Sam Darnold for one more year and potentially see if he's the future of this team, or does he want to go ahead and pull up and draft a quarterback like Zach Wilson or Justin Fields at the 2 spot? Again, just like this guy is saying here, there's plenty of debate on which guy is going to come off the board, whether it's Wilson or whether it's Fields. I'm not sure if they land on the Jets, but I will not judge this. I think Zach Wilson is a very talented quarterback from what I've seen with his legs as well as his arm strength out of BYU. I think Zach Wilson fits swimmingly to be a New York Football Jet. But again, let me know down below in the comments. I want to know this. This is my big question of the day. Who do you guys think the Jets select? Will they go with Fields? Will they go with Penei Sewell, or will they go ahead and draft Zach Wilson like the author of this article believes? I would not be shocked, so I will not judge this pick. And number 3, the Miami Dolphins, my Dolphins, select tackle Penei Sewell out of Oregon. This is pretty much a no-brainer. There is no way, in my opinion, the Dolphins are going to go ahead and draft a quarterback here. Some people say, oh, Tua's shit, Tua's this, Tua's that, who cares? You can say all you want about Tua. The Dolphins like Tua, and unless somehow the Godfather deal, which is an offer you simply cannot refuse, comes from another team, there is no way that the Dolphins are going to go ahead and trade away from this pick unless, again, it's a great offer. And I don't think that there's very much confusion on who they should pick. In my opinion, you either take Penei Sewell or you go ahead and draft Devonta Smith, Alabama wide receiver. Either of those would be acceptable. As the Dolphins have 2 picks in the first round, I think it is very smart for them to select Penei Sewell out of Oregon tackle. Very smart to make sure that Tua doesn't die in the backfield. At number 4, we see Atlanta Falcons select quarterback Justin Fields out of the Ohio State University. If you guys want to go ahead and pause the video and read all this, look at all this game-by-game grades. Personally, I thought he looked worse up against I know, that's probably correct. He definitely looked bad up against Northwestern. That was probably his worst game. Up against Alabama, he didn't look hot either. It would be interesting to see what happens if they played all right against Alabama. Does that really shift everyone into thinking that Justin Fields is the true quarterback 2 of this draft class? I have no idea. Based upon what I've seen of Fields, I see him as one of those players that is going to get stuck at fucking up by staring down the wide receiver, as being a guy that gets caught lacking, doing some stupid things like that, but he also has extreme athleticism, and in the right system, under the right head coach, this guy is going to be feared. They have him right now compared to a smaller Cam Newton. That makes a lot of sense, so I do like Justin Fields going to the Atlanta Falcons at 4. There's really no reason why he would go ahead and fall super far in the draft, but this year, the Falcons are not going to be starting Justin Fields. They're obviously going to be playing Matt Ryan, so this is even more of a dream scenario for Justin Fields, given he can ride the pine for a year, learn from Matt Ryan, and then eventually the Atlanta Falcons will get to fire out Justin Fields, maybe next year, maybe the season after, as the starting quarterback of the team. I think this is definitely a smart move from the Atlanta Falcons. Though, the Atlanta Falcons have not... They're not one quarterback away from being some star-studded NFL team. They have a decent offense. What they need is defense. So if I'm the Falcons, I'm looking more for a guy like Parsons, maybe a guy like Surtain. Now, when you're at the 4th overall pick, you're not going to go ahead and draft one of those guys. So maybe it's a trade-back scenario for the Falcons. But obviously, getting your quarterback for the future does make sense here at 4, so I won't judge it too much. Number 5, we have the Cincinnati Bengals selecting wide receiver Ja'Marr Chase out of LSU. This is a no-brainer when you're thinking about it. I'm not saying the Bengals will do this, because in my opinion, the Bengals should draft Caleb Farley. They should draft Surtain. They should draft Micah Parsons. They should draft someone on the defense, because in my opinion, their wide receiver core is pretty solid. They already have T. Higgins. They already have Tyler Boyd. They already have other guys there that can step up and play quite well. We've seen Auden Tate even in the past show some talent, so I don't really think they necessarily need a wide receiver, but matching Joe Burrow up with his buddy from LSU obviously makes sense inside of the first round, and that's what they do, drafting Ja'Marr Chase. Personally, I would disagree and say that I wouldn't do that if I was the Bengals, but thinking as the Bengals, thinking that maybe they call up Joey B and they say, hey, Joe, who do you want to pick here? Joe Burrow will probably say his old buddy, Ja'Marr Chase, who opted out of the 2020 college football season, so all of his tape, if you're going to watch, is from 2019. Coming up here at number 6, we have the Philadelphia Eagles selecting cornerback Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. This makes perfect sense. There is definitely a debate between Farley and Surtain when it comes to being the quarterback 1 of this 2021 NFL draft class. While I am more on the side of Surtain, I'm not going to go ahead and judge them taking Caleb Farley out of Virginia Tech. While the Virginia Tech defense isn't some amazing world-beater defense, Caleb Farley was definitely a bright spot on that team, and I think that the Philadelphia Eagles, who drastically need that defense fixed, are in need of it, and I like them selecting Caleb Farley here at 6. And number 7, we have the Detroit Lions selecting quarterback Trey Lance out of North Dakota State. Now, the Lions were a team initially I was not really mocking a quarterback to. I thought Stafford had a chance of leaving, but now this motherfucker has declared bankruptcy like Michael Scott, and he wants out of Detroit, and he is going to get traded. Where is it? I don't know. No idea where he's going to get traded to. Right now, there's obviously all types of theories, places where he could go. But in my opinion, that doesn't really matter for this. We just know that the Detroit Lions need a quarterback, and Trey Lance would fit there quite well. Though, I feel like Lance is a project quarterback, meaning I feel like he's not necessarily a day one starter. He's a guy that you groom, you figure out all this and that, and make sure you mold his game to be perfect. Will the Lions pick up Fitzpatrick, and then Lance learns from him? Maybe. I do worry, though. Lance, people will throw the fucking... I don't even know. What would they throw in Detroit? Maybe a car, since they make cars in Detroit. Maybe they're fucking throwing the Ford factory at the Lions because Lance looks like shit year 1, but don't fret. I think this guy will be good for the future, so I do understand that pick, and I think the Lions are going to be looking to rebuild after Stafford is now gone. If you guys have enjoyed this video thus far, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down below. Now, at number 8, we have the Carolina Panthers selecting tight end Kyle Pitts out of the Florida State University. This makes a whole lot of sense. I just said the Florida State University. He goes to Florida, the Gators. You know what I meant. Florida State University, the Seminoles. He is on the Gators. Kyle Pitts is one of these players that transcends the position at tight end. Transcends the position. This guy literally might be the best wide receiver in the class, but he's a tight end. Simply built different. Amazing. The Panthers need a quarterback, but now they're all gone, right? So what are you going to do? You just draft another offensive piece. It doesn't seem like the tight ends in Carolina are figured out. So you just bring in a new guy who is going to be a fierce player inside of your offense. It makes a lot of sense. I like the Panthers taking Kyle Pitts here at tight end number 1, pick number 8 of the draft. Now into pick number 9, we have the Denver Broncos building upon that defense and selecting Micah Parsons out of Penn State. Now, allegedly, there are some things coming out that Micah Parsons is not the greatest guy. Allegedly, doing things with his willy to his teammates. Not saying it's real. Not saying it's wrong. You can look it up if you don't believe me. That's all I'm saying. But he fits well with the Broncos. The Broncos need a quarterback, but again, all the quarterbacks are gone. So what do? You fill the hole by drafting a linebacker and adding to that defense, and maybe Drew Lock just somehow gets better, or maybe they're able to bring someone in, corral in another quarterback to play quarterback in 2021 for the Denver Broncos. I like that pick, and I feel that's very realistic. And number 10, the Dallas Cowboys select cornerback Patrick Surtain out of the Alabama Crimson Tide. The Dallas Cowboys build offense for some reason last year when they needed defense. Their defense was the downfall. Nick, Dak was fucking slinging the rock all over the field. Oh, goofy. He was slinging the ball all over the field, I understand. Then he got hurt. But you don't win games by scoring 7 million points every single time. You all know you win the Super Bowl by having a solid defense. The Cowboys' defense is far from solid. They need Viagra to get it up. I like the Dallas Cowboys selecting Surtain here. Makes a whole lot of sense for the cornerback crew in Dallas, who lost Mr. Byron Jones to the Dolphins last season. At number 11, we have the New York Football Giants selecting wide receiver Jaylen Waddle out of Alabama, which, as they would say in Espanol, is muy interesante. I had to scroll down a little bit to make sure I didn't mess this up. They have not drafted the other wide receiver out of Alabama yet. None of these teams have Devonta Smith. Now, many people are saying Jaylen Waddle better than Devonta Smith. What has recently showed Devonta Smith's better, but that's because Jaylen Waddle was hurt. This guy's speed is amazing. They're saying this guy's better than Henry Ruggs. They're saying all these things. It makes sense for the Giants to draft a wide receiver, but in my opinion, they would have been better off drafting Devonta Smith, and I think the fans are going to be big mad if they draft Waddle over drafting, say, a guy like Smith, because we've seen Smith really ball out recently. Recency bias is extreme in the NFL. At number 12, we have San Francisco 49ers selecting cornerback Jaycee Horn out of South Carolina. He is not necessarily in the that kind of spot where you're calling him as the number 1 corner, but he might move up that way, the way that people kind of just move players around all throughout the draft season. Before April and the draft happens, Jaycee Horn seems like a solid cornerback out of South Carolina. The 49ers are losing a bunch of their cornerbacks to free agency this season and likely not going to re-sign all of them, so the 49ers have a big opening there. The 49ers love to get a solid defense, and that's how you win the Super Bowl, or almost win the Super Bowl, and lose to Patrick Mahomes. At number 13, we have the Chargers selecting tackle Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. This makes perfect sense. You protect your big man, Justin Herbert. It's a no-brainer. You protect the guy you drafted to be the franchise. Don't think about it. Don't overthink about it. Draft the best tackle or guard available. That's what you got here in Rashawn Slater out of Northwestern. At number 14, Minnesota Vikings select edge Kwity Paye out of Michigan. This makes sense, and I think, actually, if any of those big corners were still available, that's where the Vikings would look. Vikings have a pretty solid offense. Their defense is questionable, and I think the Vikings adding a edge rusher like Kwity Paye out of Michigan will really help them out a whole ton when we weren't really seeing the Minnesota Vikings getting a whole ton of pressure on the quarterback this season. At number 15, the Patriots luck out into getting Devonta Smith out of Alabama. Will that persuade someone to join the team? I don't know. I really don't know. The Patriots seem like they are down bad as Tom Brady is currently in the Super Bowl with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm sure the Patriots fans are cheering for him, as I would if I was a Patriots fan, but I don't like the Patriots. I like the Dolphins. And Devonta Smith seems like a good pick, but based upon Mr. Bill Belichick's track record drafting wide receivers, it is bad. Every time drafts a receiver in the first round, they completely suck ass. N'Keal Harry as of recent. So I'm not too sure that Smith would even fall this far. I think it's kind of unrealistic, but it would make sense for the Patriots to get a wide receiver, considering they have literally no real weapons besides Julian Edelman on this offense. At number 16, we have the Arizona Cardinals selecting edge rusher Jayson Oweh, J-O-K, out of Penn State for the Arizona Cardinals. I like this pick. The Cardinals offense is star-studded. Sure, they could potentially use some linemen. They don't have the greatest offensive line, but at the end of the day, they have a very solid team. Someone who I would really like to see fall to the Arizona Cardinals would be Kyle Pitts, tight end out of Florida. I talked about him earlier. Now, this guy is just such a fucking alpha player. Going to the Carolina Panthers is a great spot as well, but I think if he was to fall to 16, the Cardinals would be perfect. But, again, I don't know if that will necessarily happen, because I doubt it will, since he seems like a top 10, top 8 pick, at least in my opinion. Also, for the Patriots, let me know down below if you guys are feeling maybe the Patriots selecting the other Alabama player, Mackie Mac Jones, at 15. It's interesting to see in all these drafts how these analysts kind of assess the quarterback position for a certain team. Do they feel as though they need a quarterback, or do they feel as though Mac Jones is not worthy of a first-round pick? Do they think Trask is worthy of a first-round pick? These are two guys we could see easily go inside the first round. We could see 6 fucking quarterbacks go in the first round, which is insane, but it actually makes sense considering so many teams need a quarterback, and these guys just have a lot of talent, especially at the early head, at least in my opinion, with, obviously, with oh my God, Zach Wilson, obviously, with Lawrence, as well as Justin Fields. I was forgetting Mr. Wilson's name, but I got it. It's in the membrane. I love Oweh going to the Arizona Cardinals as they just go ahead and increase that defense and make it better. I really like the Arizona Cardinals as a team that I feel like is really going to flourish in 2021. At 17, we have Las Vegas Raiders selecting defensive interior man Christian Barmore out of Alabama. This is an excellent pick. Defensive lineman in the draft is key. The Raiders need a good defense. Barmore was nasty in the college football playoffs. This guy is all over the quarterback. He is making these guys look like they have no idea how to play offensive tackle. I love Barmore out of Alabama. This seems like the perfect pick for the Los Angeles Raiders. At 18, my Miami Dolphins select linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, the true J-O-K. Jason Owusu-Koramoah out of Notre Dame. Very good piece, even though maybe if you watch the college football playoffs, you would have thought, oh, this guy's probably a bum, right? The Alabama Crimson Tide ran the fucking Notre Dame defense, but don't put your mind in that. Think about how good he was the rest of the season and buy into this, but I don't buy into this pick for the Dolphins. I think it will happen because Brian Flores loves that defense, but as a Dolphins fan, I want a wide receiver at 18. At number 19, we have the Washington football team going for Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech, tackle. Great pick for them. Now, very questionable what they're going to do with the quarterback position. So again, I don't really know, but I think building an offensive line for the Washington football team is key when they eventually do bring in that quarterback. Or maybe it's Mr. Taylor Heineke for the future. At number 20, we have the Chicago Bears selecting wide receiver Rashod Bateman out of Minnesota. I think that Rashod Bateman is not the greatest wide receiver, if I'm being honest with you. Now, I'm not saying he's bad. I'm not saying he's amazing. But I do think the Bears, with Allen Robinson potentially leaving, it does make a lot of sense that they would select the wide receiver here at 20. At 21, we see the Colts selecting quarterback Mackie Mac Jones out of Alabama. This makes a lot of sense, but we could also see Stafford coming to Indianapolis, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on, but I do like this pick, and it makes a lot of sense for the fit of the Colts. At 22, we see the Tennessee Titans, the late Titans, select Trayvon Moehrig of the TCU University. Texas Christian University, I believe, is how you actually say their name. But again, I don't care. I just look at their names that are on their helmet, and that's TCU. Going for the Titans, this is a good pick. The Titans defense just gets railed in these games. They had a good defense. they would be an unstoppable team. So adding to this defense, getting a guy like Mo Rig here makes a whole lot of sense for the Titans. I haven't really disagreed with any of these picks really inside this draft, which is surprising. But maybe it's because this guy is a fucking sharp. At number 23, the Jets select edge rusher Gregory Rousseau out of Miami. Now, this is going to be a guy that gets heavily talked about because a lot of people love this guy and a lot of people hate Rousseau out of Miami. Now, I'm not really one to judge and say this guy sucks or say that he's amazing. I think he's all right. I think he's worthy of a first-round pick, but I don't think he's necessarily the best edge rusher in the draft, obviously. He goes to the Jets. Makes sense. At number 23, the Jets definitely need help on defense. This is the pick they got for getting rid of Jamal Adams, so they're filling a hole on defense with that Adams pick at 24. We have the Pittsburgh Steelers selecting quarterback Asante Samuel Jr. out of Florida State. The Steelers' defense is actually very solid, but the cornerback position is going to be needy here if they lose some of these guys. So it does make sense for the Steelers, though I would love to see the Steelers just fuck around and draft a running back here, draft a guy like ETN, draft a guy like Najee Harris, and just go back to the days of Le'Veon Bell, because James Conner, frankly, is not it. At 25, we see the Jaguars with their second pick select wide receiver Kadarius Toney out of Florida. The Gators, I like this pick. Get Mr. Lawrence another weapon, but if I was really doing this, I think it is possible that the Jaguars would want to draft more defense, as they have a young defense now, continue to get youth on the defense. At 26, the Cleveland Browns select Troy Bolton's brother, Nick Bolton, out of Missouri. The Cleveland Browns defense was very good in 2021, but wasn't amazing. It wasn't what I thought they would be, frankly. I actually thought they'd be much better on defense, so adding a piece to that makes a lot of sense. They got the offense. They got a good offensive line that got dismantled in the playoffs. I feel bad for Baker, because it was starting to look good for him, and his offensive line fucking crumbled like a cookie. At number 27, we have Baltimore Ravens selecting wide receiver Rondell Moore out of Purdue. This is a wide receiver that I really enjoyed watching on tape last season. I watched him a decent amount, so I am interested to see where this man lands. Lamar Jackson needs another wide receiver. He really only has one in Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown is just one of those speed demons. Lamar, not the greatest deep down the field passer, so very interesting to see that they add another wide receiver to this core to help out Lamar Jackson. At 28, we see the New Orleans Saints select tight end Pat Fairmouth out of Penn State University. To me, this doesn't make much sense. Now, it doesn't make too much sense because they already drafted a tight end in last year's draft. They actually drafted two last season in Adam Troutman as well as Tommy Stevens. Troutman was kind of dubbed as one of the better tight ends in the draft, so I don't feel as though they really need to draft one. Obviously, Jared Cook probably leaving, but I think Troutman will be just fine, so I don't really see that, considering they need a quarterback because, frankly, unless they go with Jameis, they don't have anyone, because Breeze is definitely gone. At 29, the Green Bay Packers select cornerback Tyson Campbell out of Georgia. Not looked at as, again, one of those top-tier corners, but definitely looking at a potential beast in 2021. The Georgia Bulldogs, while not the great team they have been in the past, still showed promise out of cornerback Tyson Campbell in the 2020 college football season. The Packers need a better defense, but I don't know what they're going to do here because Aaron Rodgers seems fucking enraged. Just big pissed that they threw the ball. Or not that they threw the ball, that they didn't let him throw the ball, that they drafted Jordan Love in the first round. So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't even know where Aaron Rodgers is in 2021, even though I feel like there's no way it leaves the Packers. At 30, the Buffalo Bills select Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC, adding another offensive tackle to the Bills that might end up needing one if they want to get past the AFC Championship based upon what we saw a few days ago in that AFC Championship game. This is very good for the offensive line of the Buffalo Bills. I really like that pick. At 31, Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The way to succeed in the NFL is by building a defense, and when you have an offense as successful as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, while we don't know if they win the Super Bowl or not, they made it there. They have all these weapons. Build the defense. Let Tom Brady cook for at least one more year. And I think Azeez Ojulari out of Georgia is a great pick here. And at number 32, the Kansas City Chiefs select cornerback safety Elijah Molden out of Washington. Molden is one of those kind of players that is a shapeshifter. You know, he's a corner and he's a safety. Not too sure what the Chiefs are going to do here at 32. If I'm being honest with you, this mock projects that the Chiefs win the Super Bowl. So obviously keep that in mind. But I don't know. I really don't think the Chiefs have that many holes. So adding to the defense makes a lot of sense. But it wouldn't surprise me if they just somehow reached and took something stupid and drafted the fastest wide receiver available yet again, and they just eat that way. But again, it makes a lot of sense for them to add to that defense. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Again, the link will be down below in the description of my main man, Steve's mock draft. His full name, Steve Palazzolo. Sorry if I pronounced your name wrong. I love you. Thank you for watching this whole video. I really do appreciate it. If you guys want to see more mock drafts made from me, I have some guests coming on soon I've had set up for a little bit of time. It's going to be a great time. Very nice. Have a great rest of your guys' day. I love you all. As always, good boy.